public versus the private sector. Can you in the panel that would comment that, raise your hands, raise a hand, so I can give you the word to you. Is there any comments there? Yes, Mika.
I think that in Lapland, this phenomena is quite equal. I mean that there are huge lack of labor force in both sides, both in private and then also in public sector. Mainly, but they are a little bit different, because in the public sector, they usually the jobs they are permanent. But for example, in the tourism sector, they are like in the winter time. So they are a little bit different phenomena, but both sectors need new employees desperately. And one of the interesting phenomena is that inside the private sector, for example, in the tourism sector, most of the people who have been employed are foreigners. People from actually, I just talked with one of the big tourist companies here in Rovaniemi, and the most distant place that his worker has been is from Brazil, and actually he recruited over 60 people in this winter season, and over 50 of them is abroad. And this job-based immigration is actually one big phenomena that we are trying to take into account, because we are not competing against other regions in Finland. Actually, besides Helsinki area, there's in every place the same situation. The demographics are going very low, and we are competing against each other. So we are looking very much abroad.
Thank you, Mika. And then I think we go to the audience in Brussels. Can someone take the governing of that audience? Yes, and maybe first Kivio could also comment this. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to just really quickly answer the one about that now that women are getting the higher education, that they're moving.
Yes.
It's not actually the higher education that makes them move. Usually it's because that they don't have a place to have their kids, because no matter at the moment, no matter what your education is, you can kind of get a job anywhere. People need someone. But the thing is, if you don't have daycare options, you have to move to a place that have them. And we don't have many daycares here anymore because the buildings haven't been taken care of enough, so some of them are decaying. So that is actually the main thing. It's housing and infrastructure. So that's why when Birgitte was talking, I was like nodding quite along, and I was getting really excited to hear about how they were retaining and getting all the people back. And when she said infrastructure and the mobility part, it made me really excited. So that is what we need, and we need to look at the Faroe Islands, I guess. When it comes to youth unemployment, we don't have a lot of youth unemployment in Greenland, actually. We have a lot of different jobs that they can have. But I wanted to say, when it comes to the private sector versus the public sector, usually the first job is in the public sector, because they're always looking for someone. And then you can be stable for 2 or 3 years until you realize that this is boring. And I know a lot of people who then became independent and started doing their own work and made their own businesses. So it's a hybrid. There's some of them who even does it after the other work and get a B income. So it's the job market and the different sectors in Greenland are getting more and more fluid, I guess. And also because some of the main thing that does that, that the public sector can't really get the young people anymore is they used to have this thing where if you took the job for the government, you would have housing with it as well. And that was something people wanted. Like that was one of the reasons why I wanted to work for the government, but then they stopped doing it. So now I don't work for the government. So you can see, like, because housing is so important in Greenland. If you can't get a place to live, then you have to move to Denmark to teach at that university instead of this university. So housing is extremely important because jobs, they're here.
Yeah. Fine, very, very good. And then we go to the audience in Brussels. Can
you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Right. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak, considering the time, and thank you very much also for all of your presentations. I would like to take advantage of currently being in Belgium, that is a non-Arctic country, to ask you, how do you see the place of an apparent growing interest and implication regarding of the non-Arctic youth to the region, and how do you see future relationships between those living in the Arctic and those not living in the Arctic? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, please raise your hands. It's about how to encourage non-Arctic to move to the Arctic regions and the relations between, for instance, you and others. So who will comment that? We had I think we have 4 minutes to go. We are in the break, but I could get 5 minutes more. They were saying yes.
No problem.
So comments to that? Yes, Kvivik again. Yes.
Yeah, but I can very shortly just answer. We don't have that problem. People want to come to Greenland. So people are very interested in Greenland. We don't have to advertise anymore. Trump did it for us, I guess. So we are very fortunate that people are very interested in us. And we also have the new Arctic hub here in Greenland. So we have a lot going on, but in different ways of research, but also because there's more interest in doing film work. So culturally, there's also a lot more going on. And of course, there's a lot more interest in indigenous people. People talk about indigenousness more now. So it's more acceptable for us to claim our indigeneity now. So there's a lot more that we can do now to include ourselves into the world and to include the world to Greenland. So we don't actually, I don't foresee a problem.
We have Alyssa here, but before Alyssa, I challenging Charlotte. You are heading an European Union project. What are Brussels? What are the European Union saying about the cultural capital north of the Arctic Circle? Do you?
Oh, what was the question?
The question was that you are heading the European Union project in Bodø, north of the Arctic Circle, and I was asking you about what is the Europeans saying to you as a leader of this youth project. You are meeting non-Arctic people in the project.
What they are saying about
what they are saying to you? Yes.
Yeah, I don't have met many people that have that are not Arctic. I have discussed this team with yet, but my impression is that they think that the northern Norway is cold. It's they are living a lot of reindeers and ice bears, and they don't understand all the possibilities that are here. And that is something we have to work on, changing the image that also the youth that have grown up in the northern Norway want to come back when they go to study, but also the youth around in Norway and all of Europe, that we make us more attractive by making more possibilities here, and that they want to come here and move here. I don't know if I would call it a fun fact or something sad, but I read in the newspaper here a couple of months ago that a girl from the capital, Oslo, in Norway, wanted to move to a little island right outside Bodø. It's called Træna. And the doctor thought she was mentally ill because she wanted to move here in northern Norway to a little island, and that's not good. So we have to change the image. We have to make people understand in all over Norway and in Europe that we are a great region with a lot of possibilities. Of course, we can build up more and be more attractive, but we have to change the image.
Yes,
Yes.
and you have a really important work there. The last speaker from the panel is Alyssa. So please, Alyssa.
Hi, yeah. So just on that last question, I think there is now, speaking from someone who is Indigenous and from an Arctic community, I see a lot more sometimes opportunity and retention to invite folks who are not from these Northern or Arctic communities because they have the education. They also are helped more and prioritized sometimes with housing options. So kind of agreeing with what's already been shared briefly, relating a lot to what our speaker from Greenland is saying, is we see that. For myself, I do a lot of relationship building between Indigenous and non-Indigenous and folks who live in from Northern Arctic and non-Arctic communities, because even though internationally Canada is considered an Arctic country, there's a big difference from someone who grows up in a Southern community versus a Northern community. And there's also even a difference from a youth who grows up in a remote, isolated, rural community versus a community like I'm in that would be called the North. We're seeing this huge influx within these urban northern cities because what our communities need a lot of time are key public roles that are filled with folks who've just recently graduated, whether it's teaching, nursing, policy development. So what a big challenge though is even though they have that education, they do not have the relationship or the understanding of the context or the culture within the community. And as noted as well, there is this big presence to learn a bit more of the accurate history and ongoing forms we see and how colonization has still, you see those impacts intergenerationally. So our younger generation is growing up breaking these really much needed cycles that we see. So, but a big piece that we do as Northern Arctic youth is advocate for space for us to exist and thrive. And whether we're women, whether we're gender diverse, whether we're a single parent or a young family, childcare, supporting us and thriving and allowing us to be who we are in our communities is still, we're still not there yet in my eyes, from conversations I have with young people. Sometimes young people also leave because they want to feel safer. Our community are small and some beliefs still exist around some folks and realities. So, but infrastructure, definitely one of the biggest areas. And just the comment on the youth employment opportunities. A lot of us want jobs that reflect what we really want to do. And we don't always want entry-level positions that tend to be offered in public governments. So being very creative and also earlier. So say you're a student who is wanting to go home during your summer break or spring break, and you want to work for your community. Those jobs tend not to be offered immediately because we're dependent on public resources to make them available. And then comes, where are they going to be housing? Are they going to make at least a living wage that reflects those northern communities and the cost of living? Those are really big pieces that are lacked because folks with, I would say, need a bit more input to develop that from those northern communities and perspectives. So lots of comments on that. There's lots of work to be done from my perspective in what's called Canada.
Yes, thank you, and thank you to all. Yes, there are, as you're saying, Elisa, a lot of work to be done and a lot of things to be discussed. I'm very glad for this panel, and I'm really proud of the speeches here. I think you have given very much to the audience and to the table. So again, I'm sorry, 10 minutes into your coffee break in Brussels, but we handle that, all of us. So thank you.
Mr. Eikeland, you can be proud of the panel. There was a very interesting discussion. Thanks to you and all the panelists for sometimes deep and emotional discussion and exchange on the problems that the Arctic region might end its meeting when it comes to youth and demographics. And I understand housing is one of the key things to be tackled. I would like now to take we offered gladly, Mr. Eikeland, 10 minutes of our time, of course. We still have 20 minutes before we get into the next panel.